He's a mystery, wrapped inside of an enigma.
I liked the fact that he kind of represented the situation we're all in. We don't really know who we are and where we're going.
We very rarely get to ask the why in the mainstream. And the question demands the why. That's what the question is designed to do.
The basic humanity, he is very much a human level character. I have problems with writing stories about demigods, Superman, characters like that.
I also loved that he was not a superhero. I mean, everybody else is running around with their special skill, and his is to be amorphous, and you can't really pin him down.
Moral crusader, Zen master, social outcast. For a character without a face, the question has worn many distinct and fascinating identities in the course of its existence. The question emerged from one of the most fertile minds of what's now known as the Silver Age of comics, Steve Ditko. Though Ditko's name is not widely known among the general public, his creative output during the 1960s includes formative work on some of the most popular characters in the history of comics, including artwork for early appearances by the Incredible Hulk and the co-creation of Spider-Man. After establishing Spider-Man and introducing several other high-profile characters into the Marvel Universe, Ditko abruptly left Marvel for Connecticut-based Charlton Comics, a smaller publisher that offered Ditko much less exposure but far greater control of his work.
I was a fan of Ditko's work, and to me he always created great-looking characters, and the question's no exception. The simplicity of the overall design of the character is just brilliant, and it also is in keeping with the idea that this is somebody we don't know too much about.
You can talk about elements of the design, you can talk about the brilliance of that costume, you can talk about the brilliance, and this is pure Ditko genius of a face that has no features.
For the first time, Ditko was able to use his stories and art to express many of the political themes he'd only hinted at in his Marvel work. Inspired largely by the work of writer Ayn Rand, Ditko's defiant individualism and uncompromising moral beliefs found an identity in the angry, violence-prone investigative reporter Vic Sage and his masked alter ego, The Question.
I think The Question could be called one of the first anti-heroes in comics, because while he did the right thing, it would be right to question his motives in some cases. Vic Sage is not a warm, cuddly Clark Kent. He's not a bored playboy. He's a newsman who gets in everybody's face and causes a lot of trouble.
I'm a big fan of film noir, and I really thought that The Question had this kind of gritty, sort of noirish kind of shadow and light and enigma about him that I could really hook into.
Vic Sage mirrored Ditko's own black and white moral philosophy, a perspective at odds with popular beliefs of the time among both comic readers and creators. When Charlton Comics and its stable of characters were purchased by DC Comics, Batman veteran Dennis O'Neil was offered the opportunity to work on the character of his choice. He selected The Question, with some conditions.
I can't do Steve's Question because by my own morality, I would be crossing a line I don't want to cross. Doesn't mean my morality is the right one, but it's mine. Steve, I think, only did something like 56 pages of The Question. We had beaten that with the third issue. But I really didn't think it through. I didn't ask myself, how is Steve Ditko going to feel when I have taken his character and made him 180 degrees different? And I don't know how Steve feels about it.
When the character moved to DC and Denny got a hold of it, he layered on the whole Zen aspect, which really didn't fly in the face of anything Ditko had done, because Ditko didn't do much to delineate who this guy was.
The series was as much an exploration of how we define sanity and how we define self and how we define identity, which is the perfect question for a character who wears a mask that strips all identity away.
So I was given total freedom, do whatever you want with it. So at the end of issue 1, he's dead. We kill Vic Sage, but he goes into cool water, and I had done enough research to know that this is vaguely possible, that you can survive. And then when he comes back, he's a different character.
Under O'Neill, the Question's persona transitioned from the alienated loner Ditko had created into a reliable force for good in the DC universe, teaming regularly with other characters and even briefly filling in for Batman as the Guardian of Gotham City. O'Neill took the angry edge off of Vic Sage, replacing Ditko's absolute view of good and evil with a more nuanced moral ambiguity. An element further evolved with the addition of Zen meditation and other practices associated with Eastern mysticism.
With Denny and this move to sort of Zen questioning and Zen philosophy, you also get this lovely samurai sort of narrative sense that lone Ronin carries forward, except it does so in this very Western style, using Eastern tropes.
The other thing about Vic Sage was our emphasis on martial arts, not as an adjunct, but as something central. And though we didn't bring it on stage very much, yoga and those kind of Eastern disciplines, I figured that Lady Shiva took him off and gave him a crash course and all of that stuff that in real life would take you 10 years to learn. And when after the Lady Shiva course, they couldn't punch him because they couldn't get close to it.
Ditko's influence manifested elsewhere, at the heart of legendary comics writer Alan Moore's breakout series, The Watchmen. The masked visage, nihilism, and abrasive morality of Moore's Rorschach harken back to Ditko's original Question.
Rorschach's Journal, October 12th, 1985. Dog carcass in alley this morning. Tire tread on burst stomach. This city's afraid of me. I've seen its true face.
Not long after, DC's take on the character moved beyond the printed page and into mainstream culture as part of DC's animated universe.
No one asked for more help. This whole trip might just prove the kid shouldn't eat nachos before bed.
Peanut butter sandwiches.
How did you... What? Do you go through my trash?
Please. I go through everyone's trash.
And that's what really drew me to the character, was how nebulous he was. You don't really know too much about him, but that he certainly is paranoid and doesn't trust anything to be what it is on face value.
But the character's most dynamic transformation came with the demise of Vic Sage in DC's 52, after which the faceless mask and blue trench coat were donned for the first time by a female character, Renee Montoya, a disgruntled Gotham City police officer. As a minority, Montoya added a new dimension to the Question's pursuit of social justice.
Renee was a perfect question for the 21st century to me. All of her questions about her own identity, that she was Latina, that she's a homosexual, that she's this ex-cop, that she is a recovering alcoholic. These were, I think, it was the right time for her. You take a character like Renee, who is emblematic in many ways of those people that are disenfranchised in the society, and you put a mask on her and you give her the ability to then move forward in pursuit, not necessarily of justice, but always in pursuit of truth. And, you know, she's going to kick ass and take names, and that's going to be a wonderful thing to do.
The Question has broadened from an uncompromising voice of an individual to a full canvas capable of reflecting the quest for justice across the social spectrum.
You can never tell with it what he's going to do, what he's going to think, and exactly who he is. He can reinvent himself any way he wants.
It wasn't one of those kind of things where you had to know a million years of backstory to have fun with the book. You could jump right into it and go along for the ride and have a great time.
In the case of Batman, Batman is the real guy and Bruce Wayne is a disguise. He became Batman when he saw his parents killed, and everything has been adjacent to that. I always figured that Vic liked being a newsman, and the question was a convenience for him.
There's an established history of sort of the man with no name, and that sort of faceless hero in the Western tradition exists for a reason. The nameless loner who comes and does good and moves off alone, ever in isolation. I think one of the things that the Question designed, just the very nature of the original Ditko design and how it was played with and sort of embellished by Dennis, it absolutely runs towards that. It really embraces it, and it embraces it in a way that I think Ditko never could have imagined.
So, who is the Question? Really?
You'll never know.